lecture is also being live streamed and webcasted to all our field stations. So let me also welcome all our colleagues in all our field stations who are watching this particular special lecture by Dr. Swaminathan on the 25 years of Tryst with our agriculture destiny. I think the Tryst with Destiny is a independent speech of our former Prime Minister on the occasion of India's independence. And today, on the eve of Independence Day, Professor Swaminathan is going to talk to all our staff on this particular topic. And this comes out of all of you heard the 25-year celebration of the foundation, where the President was here. And I must thank all of you for all your active participation and cooperation in conducting this 25-year event. And those who attended the event, they have been sending us congratulatory messages that it was well organized. We have only one regret that not many of our staff could sit in the main auditorium. That was because of the space constraint. And we're very particular that the President makes a visit to the foundation itself, otherwise we would have organized somewhere else where all of you could have been participated. And thank you for taking in right spirit, although you have attended the function virtually. But many of our colleagues who had been involved in organizing this particular event, I know they have worked day and night, and this is an occasion to put on record our thanks to all of you for your contribution and support and help for making the 25 years a remarkable event. Well, I think 25 years is a milestone. I think it's just a landmark. But as both our chairperson and all of us mentioned, that there's a long way ahead of us to achieve many more things, and that is possible only through all your dedicated efforts and support. And in this context, I think Dr. Swaminathan also noted that, as I think Chairperson mentioned that in the speech herself, saying that from 3 people in the establishment of the foundation, now our staff strength has gone to more than 450. Many new people, many with diverse background, with lot of differences. Many of them are coming from a specific regional background, who are working only in that particular region. So it is time to send them a message of what the foundation starts for, for the field. So we are here. I request Professor Swaminathan to take it.
Like to come, seats in front. Please come. This whole room is vacant. Dr. Parida and friends, first of all I want to both compliment and thank all of you for the excellent teamwork you displayed last week when the President of India was with us. It's only because all of you worked together along with Dr. Parida as a member of a team, or what I call a member of a symphony orchestra, everyone playing their part. We could not have had such a smooth and wonderful function. The ceremony has raised our prestige in the society. Professor P.C. Kodandaswamy, a great institution builder, he himself wrote that he was very impressed with the ceremony, and also the fact that MSSRF is present in Chennai and Tamil Nadu has added to the science prestige of Tamil Nadu. So I compliment all of you and thank you for working together. And I hope it will not only be a function 25 years, but this will be a common spirit of working together as members of a team, each performing their own function. I want to briefly, because I know we are predominantly, as Dr. Parida said, on that day from a staff of 3, It is now coming to about 450. If you take all of our people in the different places, most of them are very young, most are young. How do you build an institution? How do you choose your research priorities? And what will really be valuable to the country as a whole? How do you choose? That's what I want to share with you. Taking the example of our own institution, not something theoretical. People can speak on institution building in an abstract way, but taking our own institution, how was it built? Because you don't know. This is built by brick. Where you are sitting now was where we laid the foundation stone for this building, 1992. And it was really as a symbol. Institutions that we built brick by brick. We requested all our staff, whoever came, to put one brick. That is, even in fact, once Dr. Malcolm Adiseshiya said, "Is this the place I put a brick a couple of years ago?" I didn't believe that building is going to come up. So institutions are built brick by brick, and everybody has to place his own brick, and otherwise it won't come up. Before I go to one or two points I want to make, I wish to remind ourselves, because tomorrow is August 15th, 66th Independence Day of India, and on the midnight of August 14, 15, many of you were not yet born at that time. Jawaharlal Nehru made his very famous statement, all young people should know it or should know it. Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny, and now the time comes when we shall redeem the pledge. That's important. How do you redeem your pledge? At the stroke of the midnight hour, when the world sleeps, India will awake to life and freedom. A moment comes, which comes but rarely in history, when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends, and when the soul of a nation, long suppressed, finds utterance. Beautiful sentence. He had a great hope, but you should also know just before our independence, this is from the Hindu of 1943 or something of that kind, the Hindu front page. You will normally feel that this kind of picture is only in Africa, but this was in Bengal, the Great Bengal famine, where nearly 3 million children, women and men died. Food was one of the one problem. Even 1947, August 15th, at the Hindustan Times in Delhi, one side was about our freedom, the other side about the potential famine which might come up. So freedom, this is why Mahatma Gandhi, the other day, I think our president quoted this, what he said in Okali, that to the hungry God is bread. And he said this must be our first priority, the God of bread. But today, 66 years later from that situation, where are we now? Our population has grown from 30 crore to 1.2 billion or 120 crore of people. It has grown 4 times in the last 66 years. Malnutrition scenario, this is from the National Food Security Bill introduced in Parliament. These data are from the Food Security Bill. Malnutrition scenario, 22% of our population is undernourished. 22% of 1.2 billion, very large number, almost the population of India in 1947. 40% of children below the age of 3 years are underweight. That means they are not fed properly. Majority of children between 6 to 35 months are anemic. 33% of women aged below 15 to 49 years have a body mass index below normal. These are all quoted in the Food Security Bill as a rationale of our country spending a very large amount of money on almost free food, 1 rupee, 2 rupees, 3 rupees, very poor food, justification. This is what we call a national shame, that in spite of independence, in spite of Mahatma Gandhi saying that overriding priority should go to food production and food distribution, we are still in this breach. From Bengal famine to right to food, National Food Security Bill of India, we hope it will be passed. It is not a very satisfactory bill in many cases, but nevertheless a beginning has been made, and always one can improve it, the rules. I want to particularly highlight our own contribution to the bill. One is the life cycle approach. Those of you who have been with us for more than 10 years now. About 10 years ago, we hosted the UN Committee on Food Security, Food Nutrition over here in what's called a Kapat Hall, where we had our meeting. At that time, it was decided that we should recommend a life cycle approach, that is from conception to cremation. It's a complete cycle from the day you are conceived to the time one leaves. And this has been included in the text of the bill, nutrition, food and nutrition security, based on life cycle approach. There are controversies about the quantity, 5 kilograms per individual per month. Some people want 15 kilograms and so on. Enabling provisions, food availability and food absorption, that is drinking water, sanitation, hygiene and so on. Question of storages, all parts of the country, once the bill comes into action, you need a whole national grid of grain storages. And governance reform of the public distribution system, more using modern technology, ICT and so on, or even Aadhaar, how do you improve the efficiency and prevent leakages in the nutrition system. So the major features: adoption of a life cycle approach with special reference to the first 1,000 days in a child's life, first 3 months, first 3 years when most of the brain development is completed. Enlarged food basket, that is including millets and what we call climate smart nutri-millets. I'll come to it a little later. And considering woman as the head of the household. In other words, the lady over 18 years of age, she will be the one who will be given the entitlement card, whatever you call ration card and so on. Giving explicit recognition to the role of woman in household food security system. These are some interesting features. There are many other features which people want to add from what I see from the newspapers. Finally, what comes out of it. So long as we have the legal right to food, like right to information, right to education, right to work, right to food, these become a legal right, then we can go on improving it over a period of time according to our capacity. But as the President of India said in our own meeting here, he said that this bill cannot be implemented unless production can be kept up. But just because we have about 70 million tons with government just today, there's no need for complacency. Tomorrow we don't know. There may be drought, there may be climate change and so on. We'll have a problem. And therefore, the President rightly emphasized the critical role of farmers and farming. Well, now I'll shift to our own institution. Again, Mr. N. Ram, our trustee, in his vote of thanks, quoted Uma Lele and Kavita Gandhi in their 20 years review. Incidentally, our trustees have decided a 25-year review of management and mission will be organized. But the 20-year review, I requested Uma Lele and Kavita Gandhi to undertake. They could not go to all our centers. Mostly they did it by studying our literature and by talking to people here and so on. But Uma Lele is a very experienced person in reviewing. She was one of the leader of FAO and many important organizations. Therefore, what she says is based upon a very large amount of experience in studying institution. MSSRF has no parallels in its entirety. The review team searched for but was unable to identify a comparable organization which combines scientific research with action, uses a combination of modern science and traditional knowledge, and develops innovation to address the triple challenges of poverty, gender inequity, and environmental sustainability. Now let me take up our own voyage. This is the preamble what I want to say. Tomorrow being Independence Day, you all remember what Nehru said. We should redeem our pledge. Nehru, like Kennedy used the word, ask not what the country will do to you, ask what you will do to the country. I say the same to you, ask not what MSRF will do to you, but what MSRF should do many things to you, but ask yourself also what you will do to the institution. Otherwise you can't build a great country, you can't build a great institution if you are all takers, and no givers at all. You take something from the institution, also you have to give something to the institution. Without it, it will not be a success. Now we have come a long way, and I must tell you some basic principles when we developed this institution. I may also say that in the first 10, 12 years, I was chairman, also executive chairman. We didn't have an executive director. I have to raise the funds, I have to do everything myself. I have to prepare the projects and so on. Our first executive director was Prof Lecture, and then followed by Velayutham and Gokhale, and now Dr. Ajay Parida. But in the early years, we had to be very, very frugal. For example, I remember when the plot was given to us, a lot of cattle, everything was coming in here. And I didn't have the money to build a fence because we were planning to keep whatever money we have for the building. And therefore, we needed 50,000 rupees for fence. I had to go to Mr. M.V. Arunachalam, get an introduction to another person, and he gave 50,000 rupees. That is how we didn't have Intel, CSTD or anything of that kind here for a very long time, for 10 to 12 years. No vehicles, no cars, no STD. We had built institution on a climate of austere and a climate of... but I wanted to ensure that research does not suffer, that whatever money we have is given to the work, not avoidable, other kind of avoidable wastage. Even though today we are more affluent, I will still request you to keep up this mode of an austere, use money for the essential purposes, whichever is not necessary, do not use it. That's how it was built. It was a modest beginning and sharply focused work. And also we believed in getting the advice of others, an annual interdisciplinary dialogue. We had people both nationally and internationally. The early records were all published by Mini Krishnan, a very famous editor of the Macmillan and Company, the very first one. They were all called a generic term, new technologies reaching the unreached. That is how our whole work was, reaching the unreached. But the first one was in biotechnology, second one was information technology. The approach was solving a problem and not worshipping a discipline. This is why you find many people ask me, where is your department of chemistry or a department of biotechnology? We didn't have any such department. We had only CSR, Coastal System Research, Program Area 100, 200, 300. That was specially designed. It was not just by accident that happened. We wanted to get away from the university outlook of everybody within his own wall of his department. I am botany department. I recall Professor Keshavan was dean of the School of Life Sciences of Jawaharlal Nehru University. I was in the very first committee when we decided to go for schools rather than department. So much opposition came. Who will employ a life science man? Is he a botanist? Is he a zoologist? Is he something else, and so on? So we got ourselves divided into disciplines and not think of the work, what we have to solve, the problem which has to be solved, rather than worshipping a discipline. So the other principle was, do not chase too many butterflies. I always use the word, if you chase too many butterflies, you will get nothing in the net ultimately. You try to concentrate, sharp focus, what exactly we want to achieve, why should we want to take it up, why is this problem important. So we started analyzing, and first I came to the conclusion really that we should start with coastal system research. The reason was, I know my own life has been always in field crops like wheat, rice, potato and so on. But I wanted a change also in my own thinking from purely wheat and rice to other situations. And I found that coastal areas, although they are the home for a very large percentage of our population, merely 35% of our population live within 40 kilometers from the shoreline. In spite of it, we find that we don't give as much attention as is necessary scientifically for the coastal areas. Foresters are doing something, Casuarina and so on. Fisheries people were doing something. Even the Gulf of Mannar, they were fighting who will possess the Koswadi Island. But the fisher people wanted it, foresters wanted it and so on, even the Biosphere Reserve. Therefore, we found that this whole area of coastal system requires integrated attention. Today it has become a national policy because I chaired 2 committees. We formally, the landward side 500 meters from the shoreline and so on. Today, both landward and the seaward side, we look upon it in an integrated way. And we worked hard and we got a center in the Anna University, the money for them, for a center for integrated coastal zone. The coastal zone, apart from its importance in human terms, is a very important area from the point of view of scientific research. It is the host of a whole set of halophytes, salt-tolerant plants. I recall once I put up a demonstration from Bhubaneswar to Puri at 3 levels. First is casuarina, then is cashew nut, then coconut. Because decreasing salt tolerance, casuarina can stand a little more. Cashew nut, that is how cashew nut, even when we started our work in Nagapattinam district, one of the first things we did was we got cashew seedlings from Bangula and from the Dapoli people, Konkan Krishi Vidyapith. They have some very excellent strains of cashew nut. We brought them here and planted them and so on. So our idea was to study the coastal ecosystems in its totality and then do, and I'm happy to say that our scientists led by Shelvam, they have developed this program very well. We were the first to create consciousness of mangroves. For example, I was happened to be also in the Tamil Nadu Planning Commission. A file came which said that World Bank is willing to provide a lot of funds to convert Pichavaram into an aquaculture pond, because wonderful place. You know, wherever the mangroves, you have got also the nutrient discharge into the water. So you get a lot of fish. If you go next time to Pichavaram and so you go and see near the mangroves, you will find a lot of fish which is coming in because the nutrient discharge from. But they wanted to provide aquaculture. Fortunately, I was there. I stopped it and we started creating an interest in Pichavaram, Muthupete, the old mangroves. You know, the rest of it is all documented in our 25-year book, so I'm not going to repeat what we have done. But the principle behind why did we choose that one? Because there was a lacuna, there was a felt need for research there. There was not others working in it from a totality of the point of view of both the fishery side as well as the agriculture and horticulture and silviculture side. How do you look at it in a totality? And fortunately, we also thought we should try to use these salophytes as sources of genetic material for breeding, for plant breeding. That is how the mangrove work, the Portaricia work, the salt tolerance, both abiotic stresses and drought tolerance, and Portaricia quartata. In fact, Dr. Balakrishna was with me until recently. He made a very good collection of Portaricia from various parts, including Bangladesh. There's also an important source of salt tolerance. Then you had Prosopis juliflora, which is in abundance next door. That also made a... Because it is the first institution in this country which took up plants which others were not working. In other words, the reason why we could make a good impact is one, we got scientists like Ajay Pereda. But more important is the problem we chose. The problem we chose was, the first one was one Subramaniam, who works in the Central Sugarcane Breeding Institute, Coimbatore. He was the first PhD student. We didn't have any facility, but they sent him to International Center for Genetic Engineering and Biotechnology and IARI. They were kind enough to provide facilities. That is how we started the work on mangrove genetics, mangrove cytogenetics. Then, of course, it got a lot of support from the Department of Biotechnology. But remember, if you also go, many people were working here itself, even in our university, on BT and so on. They all said, we will take up BT. I said, no BT. Mangrove, I should say it now because the late Kuttala Jayaraman, I occupied a room next to her for a few months. Dr. Padadasamy gave me when I came here. She said, what is all this nonsense, mangrove and all that? You take up the annual crops, these are very difficult. And we can take up BT. So everybody wanted to more imitative science, this is the problem. See, many of you I think are referring, today it's very easy, both for plagiarizing and imitating. Because you can look at the website, you can see the web and download it. Nancy will help you and you download your material. And that is not, please do not, I think I want you, why I'm offered to give this talk is, you people are young, you have to make a contribution. You have to make a good scientific contribution. Not I also ran, don't be just satisfied. I also produce a thesis, I also produce. That is not you. What is the contribution you have made? What is the thesis for? What is the originality of the work? Are you going to do? Anyway, every department of university I see, they are all working on some BT or something. They have not. However, we are rich in biodiversity. We call ourselves mega biodiversity area. And what about our own biodiversity, which you can use very effectively? But we worship the problem, not the tool. Worship the problem. What's the problem? Why did we choose mangrove? Because we knew mangroves must have genetic traits which made them grow so well in the intertidal region, between the sea and the river, which comes out very well. So I think that gave us a very quick. In fact, when I first presented the idea in a meeting in Tokyo in 1989, immediately Dr. Okita said, I recommend $500,000 for this work, and that is how the work was started in the early days, the whole mangrove work. Another gentleman, later on I came to know his name is Nomura, and he said that tomorrow shall we have breakfast together, and you please sit down, Nabi, I don't know what. If you ask, I will ask. So he said that can we have breakfast tomorrow? And he said he got a check for $1 lakh and gave it to me there. I was so impressed with your talk that I want to support your work. So I think we had a lot of support because the originality of the work, originality of the idea. Not because if I had gone with Priti Pranjal, nobody would have given any money at all. And so you are all young people. You think very clearly what exactly you want to do, what you want to achieve, and look at problems which have not been solved. Not all the time taking the same route, everybody going the same way. So our mangrove work became very famous, and we could get a lot of support, not only in terms of money, but the Japanese agreed to organize an international society for mangrove ecosystem, which I was the founder chairman for some years. Then I resigned. So the whole Internet Coastal System management. But more recently, one more example I'll give you. 1930, Mahatma Gandhi started the Salt Satyagraha in Dandi March, what called famous. It was a turning point in our fight for freedom. At the same time, people do not know, the younger generation, that at the same time, Rajaji and Sardar Vedaratnam Pillai started the march in Vedaranyam Salt March. The Dandi Salt March is very well known. Dandi has got very good facilities in terms of memorial Gandhi, because Gandhiji walked there. But Vedaranyam was not in a good shape. So we brought Mr. Jairam Ramesh there, and now Vedaranyam has considerable amount of support, including our genetic garden for halophytes. Collect all the halophytes before they disappear. Because genetic erosion is very high. Genetic erosion in most of these kind of plants, xerophytes, halophytes, very good. This is why even in Afghanistan we have suggested a genetic garden for food and health security, because they have very good germplasm of all the nuts, many of the nuts. If you read Rabindranath Tagore, Kabuli Wala, the poem called Kabuli Wala, you will see people were welcome. The child was waiting for the Kabuli Wala to come, because he brings so many good things to eat. And therefore, that's also a rich country, but a war-torn country. And so kindly, whenever you think of even conservation, think of prioritization, what I'm trying to say. Not everything to be done, but what is your priority, where will you go? I must also say that at a critical time, because in those days, apart from DBT, not many people saw the importance of mangroves as a source of valuable genes and so on. Very difficult to get money. We were very fortunate to have strong support from the India-Canada Environment Facility, what is called the India-Canada Environment Facility. They gave substantial support, not only for Tamil Nadu and Andhra, but also for Odisha and up to Sundarbans. We had all the 4 states along the east coast which took them. Now, from the very beginning, we had the interest in. I must also tell you, this building, when we were building, I told about the bricks, but I had only money for the ground floor. We didn't have money to build the next floor. Fortunately, again, I happened to go to Sweden at that time and gave a talk. We had what is called a Keystone Dialogue, and the meeting was held in Sweden. Then the chairman of SIDA, Swedish International Development Agency. In fact, one of our trustees, Rita Sarin, who used to work with SIDA, he asked me, in what way we can support your work. I said, we have this building, I need money to complete the building. and they gave about 2 crores of rupees at that time to complete the building and to equip it and so on. So sometimes luck also plays a part, but more than luck, nobody will give money if they are not convinced about the value of the work. And that is why whenever whether it's your research project, you go to defend it, you have to defend your project, peer review will be done and so on. Now in the case of biodiversity, we thought we should work both in Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. Eastern Ghats we chose Kolli Hills and Koraput. Koraput has been my interest for a long time because I started my career at Cuttack, the Central Forest Research Institute in 1954. Koraput was very much in news at that time because a Japanese scientist, a Japanese taxonomist had gone there and prepared a very good paper on extensive rice variability in Koraput. Our own people for a long time because it was malaria infested. Like Wayanad was also very highly malaria infested until the time DDT came. DDT came, then you control the malaria. So we decided that we must concentrate on both Western and Eastern Ghats. Unlike Western Ghats, which has been studied in detail by Professor Madhav Gatil, who was the other day giving a lecture here, and others in the Institute of Science, Eastern Ghats had not received the same kind of attention. So we had these 2 centers, and then Wayanad in Kerala as the 3rd center. In all these cases, we thought that what is our own contribution? It has to be more community-centered, community agrobiodiversity management. That is why even our gene bank here, which Tarasya Manusya provided the funds, is called Community Agrobiodiversity, Community Gene Bank. That is, we represent the community. The community, Gita Rani and others have identified a lot of material from the local community, saved them, multiplied them, given back to them if they want it, otherwise fight for their rights. When you want to enter it for plant variety protection, you have to have a lot of data. These people themselves will not be able to do it. In other words, then, we just became friends of the community. Koraput, for example, the Genome Savior Award, or even now the global and important agriculture heritage site, we prepared the documentation. Made a scientific study and so on. So you have here, then many concepts came from our biodiversity work. One is the seed, grain, gene, seed, grain, and then water bank. The 3 banks. Even if you leave the water, the gene from the genetic resources, the seed, the grain bank, and then the 4 C's, they now become common. Conservation, collection, conservation, cultivation, consumption and commerce. All the 4 kinds of material. So many concepts have been developed by our people in all these places, and it is very important to have. The other point which was clear in Kolli Hills was the conflict between what you may call crops of immediate commercial value. For example, pineapple or tapioca. There are Salem starch factories are there. They will buy tapioca. But these only some of the older people are eating. Even the younger students who go to school, the midday meal is only rice. They are not getting these grains. So gradually, the genetic erosion was very high. So we decided that our approach should not be preaching to people, oh, biodiversity is important, you must conserve them and so on. How long will they go on conserving for public good at personal cost? Public good at personal cost. It is very difficult. That's why we link commercialization and conservation. Commercialization as a trigger to conservation. So long as there is economic value that material. This is why I am happy that in the new legislation we have been able to successfully introduce millets, all grains, orphan crops, you may call them, nutri millets. They are still being called coarse grains, 1 rupee per kilogram. So I hope if they are introduced in the PDS, public distribution system, the demand for them will go up. When the demand goes up, then there will be more cultivation. If there is procurement, there will be production. These 2 are important. Without procurement, there will be no production. And so our biodiversity group, apart from red and so on, rare, endangered, threatened species, they have made a real mark, not only in India but globally. from the point of view of making it clear that community involvement, community management, community biodiversity, conservation code, the younger people, the genome club in schools, creating awareness of genetic material, these all have been important contributions. Again, I am citing some of the contributions because I want you to think about it, because all of you are young. Think about what is it you can make some innovation. This decade is called a decade of innovation in our country. The Prime Minister gives a speech declaring this decade as a decade of innovation. But what is the innovation? What is the innovation we are doing? Each one of you ask yourself tonight, are you doing any innovation? Are you doing only routine work, copying somebody else, what they have done and so on? And it's very important to ask ourselves. Otherwise, if you don't exercise your brain, and then it is Lamarckian view, and unutilized or underutilized part of your body becomes redundant. So unless you work your brain, you will not be able to sow new seeds. Now, biotechnology, I already mentioned. Our aim in the biotechnology was not to become a great biotechnology institute, but more importantly, to fill the gaps. To fill the gaps was utilizing material like Avicennia marina, Prosopis, or Juliflora, or Potaria quadrata, many of them, those plants which have very valuable genes which have not been explored. They have been done extraordinarily well. Our group is therefore, apart from the patents, they have become well known. Keep in view what Charaka said long ago. A young man went to Charaka and said, Master, we are told you know all the plants in this region. No, he was a great medical person. And so please tell me which are the useless plants. Charaka apparently said, my dear son, I don't know which are useless. Why don't you find out from people? And then come to me tomorrow evening with a list of useless plants. So the boy went from place to place, from house to house. Is this a useless plant? They said, no, it has got this use. Then after he got his lesson, he came to Charaka and said, there is no plant which is useless according to the people. So there is no plant which is useless, there is no brain which is useless, all are useful. How do you use it is the main point which you'll have to do. So we have used plants which are not used by anybody else in this country, and it is originality which gives you immediately in science the recognition. The recognition comes from the originality of your work, not by the number of papers you have published, by the quality of the paper. What is it that you have said? Even one paper, I think I'm told when Ramanujam sent one paper to Hardy, there's a book here, and the man who knew numbers, Hardy was just perplexed. He said, I can't see such a brain existed. In a customs officer, he was a clerk in a Madras Port Trust, he was a custom. If Hardy had not discovered him, you and I didn't, no Indian discovered him. It was only a foreigner who discovered, an Englishman who discovered him. He immediately said, probably another Indian or something, he might have tried to misappropriate that particular equation and so on. But Hardy said, here is a genius, here is a genius. He didn't send him a whole set of papers, just one theorem. From that he could see the man is original. So one paper from you, we can make out how original you are or how repetitive you are. So I think it's very important we do. The next we went into eco-technology. Our aim from the beginning, as Kumalele said, marrying traditional wisdom with modern science. The traditional ecological prudence of modern science, and we called it eco-technology. In 1993 we had a seminar here, our annual workshop on eco-technology. Dr. Federico Mayo, who was then the president of UNESCO, he was here, and then only he created a chair in eco-technology. He gave money to start a chair in eco-technology in our foundation. Ecological technology, we said the bio-village is eco-technology in action. How do you create a village in which is human-centered? Bios is human-centered. A good publication has been brought out, you can go through it. What is a bio-village? You should be very clear. Under what conditions the term bio-village can be used? How does a village, just as we say, how did Kutanad qualify to be a globally important agricultural heritage system? Similarly, how does a village qualify to become a bio-village? What are the criteria? The three major criteria is conservation of natural resources, including common property resources, the common property land and so on. Improvement of productivity of small farm, profitability. and thirdly, creating non-farm employment, more jobs in the non-farm sector. In other words, looking at the totality of the. So this has become the bio-village model of development. Has led to a number of additional points. Conservation of natural resources means soil and water, number one. From there, we went to the watershed. The bio-industrial watershed concept was developed by Dr. J.S. Bali, and we have adapted it, and that, as you know, got two national prizes, the National Water Prize and the National Prize for Groundwater Management. One of the important lessons of the bio-village is how to generate the power and economy of scale for small producers. How do you get the power of scale to small producers? And that is how these small self-help groups, their own methods of group formation, their own societies and so on. Secondly, why do we call them eco-technology center? What does it qualify to be eco-technology? The enterprises we take under the eco-technology center are biological software for sustainable agriculture, biopesticide, biofertilizers, vermiculture, and so on. In other words, all the SHGs are producing products for sustainable agriculture. In other words, the relationship between mainstreaming ecology in technology development. When you say eco-technology, you are mainstreaming ecology in technology development. That's only future. I can tell you, all the young people, technology alone without ecology to hereafter in the future. Every day you find sand mining. Sand mining can be done without harm to the environment, or coal mining, of course. Those are all what I call the green revolution, not green revolution, because that is what has overtaken our country now. Every day you see very rich people trying to land grab and so on. Very unfortunate. I started by Nehru and Gandhi and so on. In my young age, we had a wonderful people whom we respected. You don't have anybody every day, you are only surrounded by scams. My only request is you also don't become part of the scam. You try at least to save our institution from this kind of institution. Food security was our next, and there, as you know, we had a program of food security for the people, but it really got articulated in the year 2000, when in this very hall, Mr. Pedro Medrano, who was then the head of the World Food Program, he said that why don't we start jointly preparing food insecurity atlases. That is how the first 2 atlases, 3 atlases, and now they are being modified. But our aim was to see that the food security work we do makes an impact on really improving the food insecure. The aim was not to prepare only an atlas. The data are only a means to an end. The data, we have been successful in many cases converting data into public policy. That is why we are more respect. Whether it is Farmers' Rights, whether it is Biodiversity Act, or now Food Security Act, every one of them we have been successful in converting. But just preparing data, but data are important. That government will do. Government, the census and so on, they prepare data. What is exactly we want to use the data for purposes, translational research, knowledge into action. That is where, here I will read out the National Food Security Bill to provide for food and nutritional security on a human life cycle approach. I am only trying to underline what is the value addition we have done. The human life cycle approach is our contribution to this whole area. How do, because they wanted even me to explain what is the human life cycle approach. So, secondly, adequate quantity of food, including what they call coarse cereals. That also because we have been propagating for a long time the importance of including these orphan crops which are there. But it says food in order to enable people to lead a life with dignity. I have written to Professor Thomas that the Act unfortunately still uses the word beneficiaries. They have abolished the below poverty line and above poverty line. Just now priority groups and general groups. There are only 2. Priority from the point of view of social protection for against hunger. But how do you life with it? You don't call them all beneficiaries and so on, because it's a patronage approach. It's a poor feeding approach. It is not a food with dignity. Enlarging the food basket to include nutri-millets, and we have been one of the early to promote the concept of genes for a warming planet, how do you, for example, I have been telling our wheat people in IRI, the stem rust of wheat, those of you who know a little bit, stem rust of wheat is largely confined to South India. The leaf and stripe rust are North India. But once the temperature goes up to 1 or 2 degrees, stem rust will become very important. In other words, the scientific checkmating of the adverse consequences of climate change must start now. It's called what we call anticipated research. Not immediate, not post-mortem, but anticipated research. And then that is the same place of farming system for nutrition. Today, how do you marry nutrition and agriculture? And that's what we are now through LANSA. I hope in the next few years we can make some seminal original contribution. How do you achieve this marriage between agriculture, what we call agricultural remedies for nutritional maladies? Because malnutrition is very high in our country, as I quoted. Now let me come to information communication technology. This was the first dialogue was in biotechnology, second was information technology. The village knowledge center concept came. It was first called information center. Then I thought that information is one way, knowledge is two way, it's interactive. So we changed the name to Village Knowledge Center, and we had a lot of problem there at the beginning. Many people, even in the dialogue I remember when we had, many people discouraged us, saying there are rats, there will be no telephone, there will be no electricity, and so on. So in my summing up, I said, yes, there will be no electricity. Then we'll find solar. There are rats, people will kill them, don't worry. People are not going to allow them. Similarly, from the point of view of telephone, fortunately at that time, slowly, the mobile telephony, the wireless technology was developing. That is why we got a Motorola award, the very first award, the gold award, Motorola award, for the purpose of using wireless technology. So wired and wireless, every one of them. Then I had a consultation here with Dr. Ashok Junjanwala, one of our very eminent persons in the ICT, Madras IIT. He said the only one which will be viable is the commercial model. His model is called the ISD-STD model. Like the STD-ISD, you pay money, you get some services. He said other models will not be viable. But we were convinced that we should go only community model. Seva and Leela Bhatt and others have a cooperative model. The three groups of models are the commercial model, cooperative model, and community model. Ours community model. There are some other models like ITC, for example, their own Jan Chopal, and mainly for the purpose of their own marketing. It is part of the information technology. Their soybean prices and so on. So we had here decided local language, local content, dynamic content, local sense of ownership, and our own role is capacity building and content creation. Content creation and capacity building. Once I was telling this to Mr. Maran, who was then, Dayanidhi Maran, who was then the Minister for Information. He said, wonderful idea. And then he told me, rang up and said, I have created 100,000 of them. You are saying you have got 5 or 10. We issued orders to create 100,000 CSCs, what they call it. I was shocked. Overnight 100,000 without the people, without training, manpower. But anyway, he went ahead because a political leader wants to. I'm glad because scaling up is important. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 is easy, but you require a much larger number. On the other hand, that program showed clearly it could not succeed because you didn't have the trained manpower, the whole content creation. People want a center only when the content is of relevance to them. What kind of marketing content is important, meteorological factors are important. Beyond that, even announcement of school results or college results on the website also have become important. But education of children has become important. If you go to any of the knowledge centers, you will find that children come there in large numbers. So we wanted to create a kind of setup which is replicable, but which is community managed, community controlled, community owned. If you look at our own Jyoti Tata, Jamshedji Tata, National Virtual Academy fellows, they are all very proud people. They are very proud people. the plant doctors, many of them. How do you empower the community? That has been our... Then the other important contribution we made was the internet, radio or internet, mobile telephone synergy. Today, the Fisher Friend application and so on, which you know there's a posters outside. What is the Fisher Friend application? How after tsunami, the small fishermen got afraid of the sea. How it has been dispelled now with the help of modern technology. Modern technology has helped them a great deal of confidence that they can go to the sea. The Fish for All Training Center, another point I always make is a calamity should become an opportunity. When Professor Keshavan and others went to Andamans on the suggestion of the Prime Minister to create a post-tsunami New Andaman. The report I think was called Post-Tsunami New Andaman. So I told Mr. Ratan that while housing is important, immediate relief is important. Let us do something permanently. So we took up this question with the Fish for All Center at Pumpohar, one of the unique centers looking at the problem of training from end to end, from capture to consumption. It's important when you do this. Now let me say a few words about synergy and public policy. Everyone acknowledged that day, including the President of India, that many of the bills, important bills like Biodiversity Act, Plant Variety Protection, and Farmers' Rights Act, for example, to add farmers' rights to plant variety protection was quite a struggle. I think at the instance of companies, many political leaders and administrators, of course, they were never interested in talking about. Just pushed it. So we had a whole series of problems with the farmers' rights. We had a meeting here, and we have also published a publication called Farm. The reason given by administrators was we were not eligible for admission to UPOW. Many of you may know Union of Protection of Human Rights. So Dr. Sahib Singh, who was then the chairman of the parliamentary committee going into the draft bill, he was good enough to visit us here. He spent a few hours, we discussed, and he asked me to draft that part, farmers' rights part. How do you integrate farmers' rights and breeders' rights? Even today, UPOW has not admitted us because they say UPOW is a big league of big companies, multinational companies. They said that you can't have farmers' rights along with breeders' rights. I said, what is the breeder for? If the farmer doesn't exist, the breeder is only working for the farmer. Farmers and breeders are together in the struggle for food security. I am sure someday or the other, I may not live, but someday or the other, UPOW will be renamed as the International Union for the Protection of Breeders and Farmers' Rights. They have no other future unless they put this, the International Union for Breeders and Farmers' Rights. And then more recently, we got this new tree farms, 200 crore allotted by Chidambaram. The idea is how do you demonstrate that there are agricultural remedies. Farming can provide a method of overcoming, the three kinds of hunger. The one is undernutrition or calorie deprivation. That can come only from additional income. In fact, the food security bill addresses only that issue, the issue of access, economic access to food. You have more. Second is protein hunger. Third is hidden hunger. All the three have to be addressed in the new tree farm. How to improve the productivity and profitability of a small farm so that the farmer has more money. How do you introduce legumes, pulses and so on in the crop rotation. Finally, how do you introduce biofortified crops with a natural, for example, sweet potato. Fresh sweet potato is a natural biofortified. It is not artificially done. The moringa leaf, the muringakai leaf, is a naturally biofortified crop. There are many of them. And then, of course, Mr. Ashish Velle, who has been coming here from Nirmal Seeds, they have the bajra, and Dr. Parida and his group has also got the iron-rich rices. But that is by genetic modification. It will take more time. So, ladies and gentlemen, you work at two levels. One at the grassroots level, that is where your knowledge comes. Your realism comes. Only when you go to the village and work with people, then only you sense, you know what is our country. After 66 years of independence, where are we now? What are we doing? I'm told onion I read today is selling at 60 rupees per kilogram. The price of all these commodities have gone up enormously. How can the poor people, where do they go for money, and so on? So we must, whenever in science, we cannot forget our social roots. What is the society's nature? How do they live? And so on. So the grassroots realism is very important. Then the question of scaling up of technological innovations. We can prove something. We can say village knowledge center is a good thing. And I must compliment Mr. Maran when he said I will create 100,000 of them overnight, except being underestimated. The problems involved in creating them. It is not just creating where is the content, where are the capacity building, where are the people. So we have been going slowly. But at the same time, you must have a self-replicating model. It should replicate. Otherwise, just saying this is a village knowledge center, it's not like a god or goddess to do some puja there. It is more important, it spreads. The grassroots level, scaling up of it. And more our work is in demand at the international level. Again, it was mentioned on the 20th anniversary day. Our work in Myanmar, the Rice Bio Park, it will be a unique one. There will be only one first of its kind. We don't have even in India a Rice Bio Park. Then the genetic garden for food, health and livelihood security in Afghanistan. About 25 people will come here for training. They are now in IARI. From there they will come. More and more demand today. Somebody came from Malaysia and he said he wanted to enter the MOU. But we should not also spread too thin. I said earlier, if you chase too many butterflies, you will get nothing. One of the success is concentration. Concentration with great vigor, achieve your results, achieve your goal, achieve your results. There are going to be a lot of challenges. I'm glad the President also mentioned that day with reference to our own food security bill. It is not easy to implement it just because we have enough grains today. Internationally, prices are very volatile. In fact, my report on price volatility, and it's also available in the library of HLP. So we need to prepare ourselves. Our climate change work has become exceedingly important in order to develop the capacity to cope with them. I suggested in 1973, I gave 3 lectures on the All India Radio. I think they have stopped it now. They were called Sardar Patel lectures. It is called Our Agricultural Future, the general title. The second lecture I dealt with climate issues in relation to food security. And there I recommended 3 kinds of a good weather code, what I call a good weather code. In other words, like this year, we must maximize production. Good weather code is one where you take maximum advantage of good weather. And drought code and flood code is minimize the adverse impact of drought. Maximize the benefits of good monsoon, minimize the adverse impact of abnormal monsoon. So all these 3 are dealt with in my 73 lecture, how to manage climate change with reference to drought, floods, and now of course sea level rise. Sea level rise is no longer, fortunately the government of Kerala has come forward to set up an international research and training center on below sea level farming. The Chief Minister was here, he said it cannot be set up without the help of MSSR. These were his words. So wherever we can, we have some help to share our knowledge, our experience, we must do. But the problems in our country are going to be great. It's not I want to undermine politically, socially, economically, increasing violence. On the opposite of open. Every day you open the 3rd page, 2nd page of newspapers, of murders, of violence and so on. And also greed. Greed is too much. The greed on the part of the rich is getting too much out of control. What will a man do if he has got to 200 crore? So instead of 2 crore, I think he'll live more happily with 2 crore than 200 crore. He will have to safeguard that 200 crore himself. So I would request you all to think of doing some contribution. I quoted Kennedy and Nehru. Ask not what the country will do for you. Ask what you will do for the country. Similarly, ask yourself what you will do for MSSR. How to make it a greater institution. From great must become greater and then become greatest. There is no limit to human achievements. Your own mind, the Lamarckian approach is the only one which puts a limit to human mind. Let us make more innovation during the decade of innovation. And next year we are going to have this large program called the Year of Family Farming, International Year of Family Farming. We'll have all the Asia Pacific region here. We want to launch the Every Farm a Biofortified Farm. In other words, marrying nutrition, every farm a Nutri farm, whatever you want to say. Have a goal. When we started our food security, we said Operation 2007, 60th anniversary of our independence. It is called Mission 2007. Mr. Vajpayee commended us for that mission. When he released the first atlas, rural atlas, he said the Mission 2007 is a holy mission. We have had many missions. I knew we can't achieve hunger-free India by 2007. But somewhere a goal must be there. A scientist must have not a wishful thinking. Once you have a goal, you must work for it also. Not that I have got a goal and then announce it, but you must work for it, you must work hard. I once again thank all of you for your working together on August 7th. Please keep up that spirit, do good work. You will enjoy it. I am sure the institute will be fair to you, but you will have to be fair to the institution. Maintain the highest standards of integrity, both professional, financial, and so on. Ensure that our institute is known not only for the good work, but also very high principles of partnership, of cooperation, and of integrity. Thank you very much for your patience. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Professor. I think after 1 hour, I think it was a 1 hour long talk by Professor. I don't think I would venture into telling anything more. But just to say that I think, Professor, you would be happy to know that we have been discussing this issue of, as a foundation, as an institution, I think in all our CODs, even staff council meetings, even the staff meetings, I have mentioned this, that we value the people first. I think the staff you people are the backbone of the institution. Only when you people perform, then your program area will perform, and when all program areas perform, then only the institution will perform. So the foundation depends on our work. The most important thing which finally Professor said is that please,